beloved chosen one. Stop everything because this moment is not random, and your pause is not an accident. Something in your spirit already felt the weight of this message before your eyes ever landed here. Because heaven knows how to interrupt your noise when your soul is standing at the edge of a turning point. You have been pushing through exhaustion, smiling through pressure, carrying questions you never fully spoke aloud, and yet deep inside you knew that ordinary words could no longer reach the place where your heart has been aching. That is why this message meets you now. This is not entertainment. This is not coincidence. This is a divine interruption meant to wake up what life tried to bury. You have spent too much time doubting what God placed inside you. Too much time shrinking to fit rooms that were too small for your calling. Too much time explaining your sensitivity, your depth, your discernment, and your hunger for something more. But what makes you different is not a flaw. It is a marker. You are not being told to stop because you are weak. You are being told to stop because you are chosen. And chosen people cannot keep moving through life on autopilot when God is trying to place direction in their hands. The pressure you have felt was not always punishment. Sometimes it was preparation. Sometimes it was the breaking of old agreements, old fear, old false labels, and old versions of yourself that could not cross into the next season. There is a reason you could never fully belong in places where compromise was normal. There is a reason your spirit became restless when others were comfortable staying asleep. There is a reason you kept feeling pulled away from what looked easy. You were never designed to blend in with spiritual numbness. You were marked to hear, marked to discern, and marked to move when the voice of God calls your name. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." This is your reminder that your strength is not gone, it is being renewed. What felt like delay was not the death of your purpose. What felt like silence was not abandonment. God was teaching you how to draw from a deeper source, so that when you rise, you do not rise by emotion, pride, or applause, but by divine power. So breathe, steady your heart, and receive this interruption as mercy. And if this message has found you at the right time, like this, share this, subscribe, and comment 271 at the end as your sign that you are ready to hear what heaven is saying. What you have carried for so long begins to make sense when you realize your life was never ordinary, even from the beginning. The rejection, the strange separations, the doors that closed without warning, the friendships that could not follow you, and the seasons when you felt hidden were not proof that you were forgotten. They were signs that your path was being guarded. Before you had language for your calling, you were already being shaped by it. Before you understood why your spirit reacted so strongly to betrayal, confusion, and compromise, heaven had already set a mark on your life that made certain environments unable to hold you for long. You kept asking why everything felt harder for you, but the truth is that greater purpose often walks through greater pruning. You were not born just to repeat cycles that destroyed the people before you. You were not sent here to live numb, distracted, or spiritually asleep. There is a reason you have always sensed more beneath the surface. There is a reason you could feel danger in places others celebrated. There is a reason your heart stayed tender even after disappointment tried to harden it. That tenderness was not weakness, it was sensitivity. That sensitivity was not a curse, it was discernment. And that discernment was not random. It was part of the design God placed in you before the world ever named you, judged you, or misunderstood you, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Let that settle deep inside you. You were known before you were noticed. You were set apart before you were accepted. You were claimed by God before life tried to define you through pain. That means your history cannot cancel your assignment. Your wounds cannot erase your identity. The delays cannot overturn what heaven spoke first. Even your hidden years were not wasted, because God does not lose sight of what He appoints. Now the pieces begin to connect. The isolation was teaching you to hear clearly. The disappointment was training you not to lean on unstable hands. The repeated endings were cutting soul ties to places that could not go where you are called to go. You thought you were being pushed aside, but often you were being pulled away for preservation. You thought you were overlooked, but often you were being covered until the right hour. This is why your life has felt different. You were never meant to be common. You were marked before birth, carried through fire, and prepared in silence for a purpose that still stands over your life today. Now the warning becomes impossible to ignore, because there comes a point when delay stops being harmless and starts becoming costly. You already know what it feels like when your spirit is nudged and you pretend not to notice. When conviction rises and you try to silence it with distraction. When truth stands in front of you and you call it timing just to avoid obedience. But this is not the hour to drift. This is the hour to decide. The enemy does not always destroy through open attack. Sometimes darkness waits for hesitation, for spiritual fatigue, for one more compromise, for one more excuse, for one more moment when you say tomorrow even though God is speaking today. That is why this message meets you with urgency, not to shame you, but to awaken you before what is precious is traded for what is temporary. You have felt the tension already. One part of you knows you cannot keep entertaining what drains your discernment, but another part is tired of fighting, tired of standing apart, tired of choosing the narrow road when the wider one seems easier. Yet ease has never been your compass. Truth is your compass. Calling is your compass. Heaven did not preserve you through so many hidden battles just to watch you surrender at the edge of breakthrough. This is why your spirit has been restless. This is why peace has been interrupted. This is why what once satisfied you suddenly feels hollow. God is not punishing you by exposing what cannot remain. He is rescuing you from becoming comfortable in a place that could slowly blind you. The prophet Elijah spoke as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow Him. That question still burns with force because it reaches straight into divided places. You cannot walk in clarity while protecting confusion. You cannot ask for divine direction while secretly clinging to what God told you to release. The warning is not that God has abandoned you. The warning is that indecision can keep you circling outside the very door meant to open. Comment still marked. Let those words declare that your identity will not be negotiated by fear, delay, or pressure. And if this message is strengthening you in a season where your soul needs steady truth, any support you give helps keep these words reaching other hearts that are standing in this same battle. Stay alert now, because what happens next depends on whether you treat this moment like passing emotion or holy instruction. And this is where your awakening stops being an idea and starts becoming a force. What has been stirring inside you is not imagination, and it is not emotional excitement that fades when pressure returns. It is the steady uncovering of what God placed within you long ago, a power that does not shout to prove itself, a light that does not need permission to shine, an authority that grows stronger the moment you stop apologizing for what heaven has written over your life. You are beginning to see that the battle was never only about your comfort. It was about your clarity. The resistance around you intensified because your awakening changes more than your own future. When you rise into truth, you break patterns that were counting on your silence. When you stand in spiritual authority, you disturb what once fed on your confusion. When you recognize who you are, darkness loses one of its favorite hiding places. That is why your inner life has become so important in this hour. Your strength is not found in performance. It is found in alignment. Your power is not in pretending to be fearless. It is in knowing who fights for you and what has been entrusted to you. There is a difference between being loud and being anointed. There is a difference between appearing strong and carrying real authority. The authority forming in you has come through testing, through restraint, through the silent days when no one applauded your obedience, through the private battles where your only victory was that you did not quit. Those moments were not small. They were the training ground of a chosen vessel learning how to carry weight without collapsing under it. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy. Chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. This is not only comfort, it is instruction. Fear does not get to name your future. Confusion does not get to sit on the throne of your decisions. A scattered mind is not your inheritance. You have been given power to endure, love to remain uncorrupted, and a sound mind to discern what is true when everything around you tries to distort it. The more you accept this, the more you stop reacting like someone abandoned and begin moving like someone appointed. So the power within you is no longer sleeping, it is waking in layers. Your discernment sharpens, your spirit steadies, your boundaries strengthen, your voice clears. What once intimidated you begins to look smaller because your vision is changing. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming recognizable to the calling that has been waiting on your agreement. And once that agreement is made, your steps carry a different weight, because heaven backs what heaven has awakened. And now you reach the place where hearing is no longer enough. This is the hour to step into your crown, not as pride, not as performance, but as acceptance of the identity God has been pressing toward you through every trial, every delay, every rescue, and every hidden season. A crown in the spirit is not decoration, it is responsibility. It is evidence that you have survived battles that were meant to erase you and emerged with your faith still breathing. It is the sign that what tried to break your mind did not own your future, and what tried to shame your story did not cancel your calling. You are not stepping into something false or unfamiliar. You are stepping into what was waiting for your agreement. For too long, you have looked at your life through the lens of what hurt you, what left you, what confused you, and what seemed unfair. But heaven has been looking at you through assignment. While you were grieving what fell apart, God was preserving what could not be taken. While you were questioning your path, God was strengthening your foundation. While you were wondering why the road felt lonely, God was teaching you how to stand without leaning on what cannot hold weight. That is why this final moment is not about emotion alone. It is about movement. It is about receiving the truth that your life cannot remain reduced to survival when you were called to carry light. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians in chapter 15, verse 58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Hold that word close because it speaks directly to the part of you that grew tired, the part of you that obeyed without immediate reward, the part of you that wondered whether staying faithful truly mattered. It mattered. None of it was wasted. every silent act of obedience, every battle resisted in private, every tear you offered to God instead of surrendering to bitterness, every time you kept walking when your strength felt small, it all mattered. You are being called now to stand steadfast, not half in and half out, not almost ready, not waiting for a clearer sign than the one already placed in your spirit. So lift your head. Let your soul come into agreement with heaven. Let the small version of you fall away. Let the fearful version lose its grip. Let the chosen one within you answer without delay. Comment 618 as your sign of alignment, and let that number mark this moment as the place where you stopped shrinking and started stepping fully into what God already declared over your life. If these words have felt like rain sinking into cracked earth, then let your response rise like fragrance from a hidden garden. Leave a like as though you are placing a candle in a high window, a quiet signal that this light reached your room and did not pass by in vain. Share this message the way one traveler would hand another a compass before the fog grows thick, not out of obligation, but out of mercy. Comment, I received this word like laying a stone of remembrance beside the river, so your soul can return to this moment and know heaven met you here. Subscribe like choosing to remain near the fire instead of wandering back into the cold, a gentle decision to keep walking where truth still breathes. And if your heart is moved to give or donate, let it be like pouring oil into a lamp that must keep burning through the night for the sake of unseen lives still searching for dawn. Nothing here is forced. Every response is a bloom, and every bloom carries the quiet beauty of willingness.